My name is Scott Horn, and I'm an entomologist with the USDA Forest Service located in Athens, Georgia. The things that I'm really curious about is in the world that we live in, humans have changed a lot of things. They've moved plants and animals from different locations and brought them to the United States. And so that's one thing that really interests me is what effect do those plants and animals have on their new environments. As a kid growing up in Alabama, I used to always be out in the woods. I was always collecting animals, collecting plants. I would bring things back to my house to study those. And then when I got into college, I found out that I could major in wildlife science. And when I started in my field, I found out that there were classes offered like herpetology, ornithology, entomology, and it was kind of an extension of what I did as a child. And so I couldn't believe that there was actually a field like that I could major in and potentially have a career in. A lot of the classes I had when I was in school kind of taught me that nature was very complex and was oftentimes there was kind of a delicate balance in nature. And so I became curious that when you added or subtracted one thing, say from the forest, like adding an exotic plant, I wanted to know what effect that would have on the forest and the ecosystem. That led to the big question: how would a plant like, say, Chinese privet from a exotic land, how would that affect native plants and animals? And in our case, insects. One of the first ways that I became interested in working on this exotic plant was working and walking around my dad's property in Alabama, and I noticed that Chinese privet was really common, and native plants were less common. In fact, Chinese privet was most common closer and closer to streams, and I noticed that the native plants were greatly reduced. And so that led me to ask the question in my career, at my job, what effect, it allowed me to do research. What effect is this shrub having not only on private lands like my dad's, but also on public lands throughout the South? If it was that bad on my dad's property, it's probably just as bad in other places. That really led us to our curiosity and our big question. What effect is Chinese privet having? In our case, on insects and native pollinators, what effect is it having on their populations? Pollinators are really important, not only for forest. In fact, 75% of trees and shrubs have to have pollinators to survive, and they're also important for humans. A lot of research has shown that 1 out of every 3 bites of food that you take are directly related to the services provided by a pollinator. So the world that we live in now is quite different than the world of our ancestors. Things like plants and animals have been transferred all over the world. So the big question for me and my curiosity is, how do these plants and animals that have been introduced into a new land, how do they affect our native forests and our native ecosystems? And I work on insects, so for me specifically, I'm worried about what effect these exotic plants might have on native pollinators.
Visit thenaturalenquirer.org for more information. There you can find out more about developing your own testable question.